Adam and Eve used to walk in the garden with God. Their consistent posture, beholding the King of Kings. Till one day, the serpent came along, and they took their eyes off of God. And they looked at the serpent, as the serpent began to explain, did God really say blah, 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 blah? God is just trying to withhold things from you. You will surely not die. To which Adam and Eve's response was to look at themselves, their own self-interests, and say, did God really? You know what? God is withholding things from me. I want to be like God. To which they ate a bite from the fruit of the tree. Sin begins when we take our eyes off of the King of Kings. Because as soon as we take our eyes off of the King of Kings, the serpent is right there ready to begin tempting you with things that are rooted in your heart. Because ever since that day where Adam and Eve fell into sin, we are now born into a sinful nature. That's why we need a savior. And I don't just make that statement. Let's go to James 1:14. It reads, but each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. See, no one can tempt you with things you're not interested in. So it makes sense that when the enemy presents a temptation, it's something that you're intrigued by, something that your flesh desires. See, that's why the scriptures state to deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow Jesus daily. Because when you're following Jesus, your gaze is upon him. And the second that your gaze is taken off of him, you begin to focus on the world and the things of it, not looking at things through the lens of God, the enemy pounces. And we so easily fall into looking back at ourselves and our own desires. And we sin against God and hurt many people in the process. Sin begins when we take our eyes off of the King of Kings. Because when our eyes are on the King of Kings and the enemy's like, hey, look over here, look over here, look over here, we're not interested. We're not enticed because our desires are lined up with God's. But as soon as we take our eyes off of him and we remove our alignment with him, the enemy pounces and we often fall. So keep your eyes on the King of Kings. But also know, if you take your eyes off of Jesus and if you fall into sin, there is an advocate. Jesus is that advocate. He's already paid the price and the penalty of your sin. So we no longer have to sacrifice a lamb to be right with God, because Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice. If you fall into sin, remember these verses. Hebrews 4:15 and 16. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weakness, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet did not sin. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. If you fall into sin, run back to the Father and behold him once again.